Good afternoon. This is Cletus Davis from Ultimate IT Guys. Welcome to today's webinar, Time to Get Serious About Security. You think you can hide from cyber criminals? Well, think again. I could quote over 1,000 stats that are all really ominous and scary, but it probably wouldn't really do any good because I've done that tons of times on previous webinars and classes and trainings. And the truth is that most people are either completely oblivious to the very real threats around them, or more commonly, they just choose to ignore them. They stick their head in the sand. Well, we can't continue to do that. You can't stick your head in the sand and just pretend that these things aren't there. The hackers, the scammers, and the other criminals are not going away. The penalties and fines are only going to get bigger and be stronger. It truly is time to get serious about security. The fines and the penalties are happening. Used to, I would always get that question in my training classes about, well, it's no big deal. Nobody does anything anyway. If we get hacked or we have a data breach, HUD or nobody else really steps in and does anything. Well, that's changing. The penalties and the fines are starting to happen, and they're getting larger. Multiple federal and state agencies have the power to impose fines and penalties on you for a data breach. These fines and penalties can be much larger if you fail to report the breach or to try to hide it completely. Hiding a breach is a crime, and we've seen a lot of this over the last year or so where these companies, they learned that they had a problem, they had a data breach, and they covered it up. And then sometime later, it all came out. In today's world, it's pretty hard to hide these types of things. Someone is going to find out. And it is a crime to cover that up now. Data breaches can lead to lawsuits and potentially jail time if you attempt to hide them. Hiding or covering up a breach is a crime. As an owner, an executive, or a board member of a business that is breached and does not disclose the breach, you personally can be held criminally liable and can be personally hit with fines and penalties in addition to the sanctions that are imposed on the business. In the past, you might have just swept those issues under the rug and acted like nothing happened. But in today's world, that's just really not an option. And if you try to do that, you're just going to get into more trouble. And that's really not what you want to do. So we have to be very careful when we just choose to blow things off and pretend that nothing happened or everything's just business as usual, because that can really get you into much bigger trouble. The doing nothing and covering it up is very bad and can put you in a very bad position as the leader of your company. One of the things that we always hear, I'm too small. I'm not a target for hackers. Well, that's really not true. Too often business owners think that they're not a target. They believe that they're too small and nobody would want their information. I hear that all the time when I'm talking with people at conferences and in training classes, but really nothing could be farther from the truth. Just being online automatically makes you a target. Many hackers and scammers specifically target small and medium-sized businesses because they know there will be fewer defenses than dealing with a large corporation. So we can't really hang our hat on the fact that we're small so nobody's coming after us, because that's not really true. The facts are, you are being attacked. All of us are being attacked every day. And we've heard from about all these other data breaches that have happened. I've spouted statistics before, but one of the big ones is 80% of us our information, some portion of our identity and our logon information is available on the dark web. The criminals have our information. Because of that, they are able to target us. They're able to get into systems and things. If you leave that untouched, if you're not taking action to protect your logon information, your usernames, your passwords, if you're not rotating those periodically, if you're not keeping that monitored to make sure that your information is not out there, if it is out there, you need to take action to change those passwords and stuff. You need to be taking action to use things like the two-factor authentication to just give you that extra layer of security, because our information is out there and we need to be taking action to help take care of it. The next fact is that we have a legal, a moral, and an ethical responsibility to protect the information that's in our care. That means applicant information, it means employee information, vendor information, tax returns, social security numbers, dates of birth, the list goes on. And all of us, regardless of what business we're in, have tons of that information, whether we really realize it or not. Most of us have a lot more than we really think that we do. And we're supposed to know where all of it is and make sure that we're taking care of it at all times. And most people, most businesses don't really have the proper policies and processes in place that really reflect the world that we're living in today. Most people are still running their businesses with really outdated policies about how to handle information. And most of that stuff really needs to be updated to include the world that we live in today. The other big fact, like I stated earlier, there are now consequences to doing nothing. And whether you're doing nothing is just pretending that nothing is happening, and I'm not going to worry about it, I'm not going to try to secure my business or my data, I'm just going to keep on doing what I've always done. Well, that doesn't really work anymore. But then on the other side, if you do know that you've had a problem, you've had a data breach, doing nothing can be really, really costly to you. And you really need to be taking action if that's happened. Hopefully, people on here today, that's not been an issue. Hopefully, you haven't had a breach and tried to cover it up. I think most people probably are back in that first group, the ones that are just, I'm just going to pretend that all this bad stuff isn't out there, and I'm just going to keep doing what I've always done. And we really need to be more careful, whether it's our having better policies and processes in place around how you deal with protected information, or whether it's having the better security and antivirus and monitoring type things in place. All of those things work together to keep you safe. So what do you need? Well, this is kind of the broken record. It's the same stuff I've been saying. You need preventative maintenance and patching. Keeping your Windows and your other applications properly updated stops many of these problems that we hear about on the news and read about in the newspaper. Layered professional grade security. That means there's multiple layers of defenses between you and the bad guys. That means really good professional business grade antivirus. It means that you've got a proper firewall on your network. You've got monitoring things in place to make sure that the indicators of compromise is the technical term, but it's basically it's looking for the little things that indicate that something bad has happened or is happening. Because anymore, a lot of the hackers and the malware people, they're not necessarily doing things that are real disruptive to your business. One of the stats they say now is that typically the bad guys have been inside your network and on your computers for like 6 months before anything really noticeable to an end user happens. Prior to that, they're really trying to keep a low profile, stay underneath the radar, and just gather information and set things up for what they're really wanting to do down the road. Well, if we're doing those proper types of monitoring and looking at those things, we can catch those things and try to stop them before the bad stuff happens. Next thing that comes down to is also the password monitoring and management. And you can learn more about that. We've got the webinar recorded from a couple of months ago where we talked about passwords and password management and two-factor authentication and making sure your passwords haven't been stolen, setting good passwords. That's a very key part of your identity. It's not literally just a password. It's part of your identity. It goes back to the old idea of identity theft has really morphed from the thing where I'm just literally pretending to be this person to try to get credit or something, which was the old kind of version of identity theft, to today, it's just pretending to be somebody else so I can get access to something else, or I can get money or send bogus emails, those types of things. So protecting your identity and your passwords is a big part of staying safe. Then there's the network monitoring and security. It's so much more today than just the old having antivirus and a firewall. That used to be enough, but it's really not anymore. We have all these gadgets on our network now. We've got most people, they've got computers, they've got their printers that are on the network, phones, maybe their thermostat, their security camera system. There's so many things now plugged into your network, and most of those things are accessible from outside your office, which means, in theory, the bad guys can get into those things. Some of those things never get touched, they never get patched, and there's a security flaw, and nobody even thinks about it being sitting there. So the bad guys can use those things to get inside your network. So monitoring the network and keeping it secure is a big deal for being able to stay safe. Business email. That's another one we've talked about many times. You need proper business email that's got keeping out the spam and the junk. It's looking for viruses and phishing scams and just trying to keep the junk out of your inbox. And if you're using those free email accounts, that's like the Yahoo or the SBC Global or Cox or Comcast or any of those provided by your internet provider, those are not business email. And Gmail from Google, that's not business email. You may have put your name in front of the @Gmail, but that doesn't make it a business email account. So if you've got questions about that, would be happy to talk to you about that more. And then there's the good old-fashioned just user training. Training your users on what to look for, what to be aware of, what to do and to not do. And we actually have some automated tools that we can use to help with just seeing what level your users are and how apt they are to click on that bad email from the person that's trying to steal their information or get inside your network. So we can help you with that training as well. Let us help you. Most of you that are on here probably are on some version of our maintenance services today already. And our basic maintenance plan, we have the preventative maintenance, we have the managed antivirus service, the offsite backup, remote support, and the business email service that has the phishing and the virus and spam protection built into it. We can also help you with things like the dark web monitoring of your passwords and your identity. We can do those advanced network protection things, security assessments, just to see what your network is like and what's going on there and where you need to maybe plug some holes. Voice over IP phone service, copier and print, managed toner. Those are all just some things that we can do to help you out. I wanted to talk about Windows 7 The end of life for Windows 7 is January 2020, so that's coming up really fast. And a lot of people, we've already upgraded to Windows 10 previously, but if you're still running Windows 7 at your business or at your home, it is time to upgrade. And basically, there are two paths for upgrading from Windows 7. Either we upgrade your current computers to Windows 10, or you can buy a new computer. For most people, changing computers can be very scary, but luckily for you, Ultimate IT guys can help you through the process. We can evaluate your current computers and help you decide on the best upgrade path that makes sense for you. Then we can actually perform the upgrade or replacement in a way that requires very little action from you. The goal is to make the upgrade as simple and straightforward as possible. We can take care of getting the right hardware and software, get it all prepped and ready for you so the process is simple and literally just plug and play on your end of the process. We're currently working on some really large upgrades for some customers, which is allowing us to get some very good pricing on the HP ProDesk computers that we always recommend for our business customers. And if you're still running Windows 7 or you have some older Windows 10 machines, give us a call if you want to try to get in on this large group buy of computers and monitors. Like I said, that's going to be some really good pricing, and we're going to be placing the order on that here fairly soon. So if you're interested in getting in on a good price on those, please let us know. We'll make sure to get you guys included on that order. You guys have a good day, and we'll stay safe, secure, and productive. Thanks. Bye.